We're not.
Oh, there's Karen. Hi, Karen.
I'm here, but I'm not getting a picture.
You're not getting a picture?
No, I'm not. There. I think I got it. I see.
It's still looking at the back of our bald heads, isn't it?
Well, it's better than looking at what was up.
Got it. That wasn't my intent, but I kind of said that. Look at that. We're queuing up for a meeting now. Expired.
Well, that just sucks. That's awful timing, isn't it? Now you gotta think on the spot.
I know.
Time,
And I'm password.
write it down. That's why I have 5,000 sticky notes. So I took pictures.
Sticky notes in my computer.
Cause I gave up sticky notes.
Put a note in your laptop.
I told IT comes up. Change the password.
That's tough. Best thing of COVID. We could change our password flight. Just because it's right here, 9 months. Instead of this second notification.
Is there a reason that we need 6.5 weeks? Don't have enough instructions.
Karen's here. We got everybody. Call meeting to order and start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag,
Flag.
United States of America,
and
to the republic for
Public
which it stands,
stands.
one nation,
One nation,
under God,
under God.
indivisible, liberty
and justice for all. And then Karen, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Doug,
Here.
Karen,
Here,
John,
Here.
Jerry,
Here.
Mike.
Here. So we've got all council members present. And at this point, I'll ask council member for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Doug, aye. She is.
here and I.
Okay, John, aye. You're aye.
My guy.
Motion carries with all 5. So first up then, we've got the citizen comment for anybody either virtually or in the room that wants to address the council. This is the first of 2 opportunities tonight to do so. Anybody have anything they'd like to address the council with? Hearing nothing, we will move on to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion for consent agenda.
Doug, aye.
Here and I.
My guy.
Motion carries with all 5. Now we move to the fiscal year 22 budget. First, I believe, is setting a public hearing date, right?
Holding the public hearing.
Oh, this is the public hearing. Thank you. So I'm running without my laptop tonight. Is the password I need to change? Thank you, John. So this is where we simply open it up for, open the public hearing regarding the fiscal year 22 budget. If there's anybody either virtually or in the room that would like to address the council regarding the fiscal year 22 budget, now's the. So given a minute with no input, we could take a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion, to close the public hearing.
A second.
Doug, aye.
Here and I.
My guy.
Motion carries with 5. So next up is the resolution approving and adopting the fiscal year 22 annual budget. Are there any items on here that the council would like additional discussion on following the numerous workshops and meetings we've had on this? If there's no other discussion needed, we can entertain a motion to approve the fiscal year 22 budget.
I'll make a motion to approve the fiscal year 22 budget.
I'll second.
Doug, aye.
Karen, I.
My guy.
Motion carries with 5, and I would just like to throw a quick shout out to the staff. There's a tremendous amount of work that goes into putting that together. And it's a big deal to get that done. Thank you.
Karen does a lot of heavy lifting in terms of those plans. I appreciate that for sure.
All right. So on to the administration section. First is a resolution setting the date for public hearing on designation of the expanded Peosta urban renewal area and on urban renewal plan amendment. And Whitney, you stood up. I assume you've got a little narrative for
Yeah,
us.
so this is the third amendment we've done since I've been here, which is pretty impressive, because I think before that, it might have been 2016. I think so, yeah. The last one. So we did accelerate this timeline a little bit to make sure that we could have this, get this set for hearing before I am transitioned. So if you recall, this is the first step for any deal, whether that's with a developer or a project that we're certifying for TIF for ourselves. So before any project is eligible for a development agreement, it has to be added as a project to our urban renewal plan. So this one's pretty darn exciting, if you don't mind me saying so. This is kind of the things we've been working on, were identified as goals by the council right when I got here. So you'll notice College Suites is on here, the Peosta Tap House project, the Choco Coffee project, the Ace Hardware project.
Peosta Square.
Yeah, Peosta Square is also on here. We also have the only project that is ours is the additional work on Enterprise. So if you recall the last amendment, we put in the Highway 20 lift station project. We've since we didn't include the road work because we didn't know how much we were doing. So we added that only so that we can use the TIF revenues to pay off on the debt that we just borrowed that we're using to pay for that project. So the financial advisors asked us to add this project, knowing we don't pay for all of it with TIF, but they're the ones that run that analysis to let us know how many TIF dollars we need to certify. So we want to make sure that all those projects are eligible so that they can say, certify, $100, $500, and those projects are all eligible. So you'll see just the work on Enterprise is one piece of that, and all the rest of those are with those businesses we discussed. Now, we know that we don't have the details of those development agreements all works out. So if you're thinking, oh, look out, I'm not sure what our deal is with Ace Hardware. We don't know that either. We know this is the first step. To add a project, you just really have to have the not to exceed number. That's the only thing we have to identify is the ceiling for the total deal. So some of these are a little inflated for the pure fact that's really the only mistake you don't want to make is to have your not to exceed number too low and then have to go to the attic. So that's really, we've identified the project, the public purpose, what is this value to the residents of Peosta, and then this deal will not exceed X amount of dollars. That's really the only information in here. So there will be lots of discussion as these contracts kind of come up individually. There are a couple that will probably, that we've already kind of started working on, the Thunder Valley community infrastructure and College Suites are projects that are underway and Thunder Valley 3D. So those will kind of come up sooner. Some of these other ones, they're in their infancy, so that'll get worked out. And the council and staff will have ample opportunity to work with developers on the details of those development agreements. Now, those development agreements will also have to be set for public hearing, hold a hearing approved. So there's plenty of fun ahead. But again, this is just kind of the checkbox to hit after, or when this is set for hearing tonight, we then have to notify the school and the county, because these projects potentially impact those. These are all coming from new valuation with the exception of enterprise. So that's not going to be taking away any existing dollars from the school or the county. It's just going to impact what will be going in. It would sort of slow that influx. So we're required to hold that hearing with them, that consultation meeting, which we will do before the hearing. So that's really all that happens essentially between now and the hearing, which is set for a month from now, the 2nd.
Thank you, Whitney. Any questions or discussion amongst the council on the amended urban renewal plan?
These are all pretty straightforward. I don't know. I know we just really got it. We were working on this today with the attorneys, but you'll have ample time to review it, but it's all pretty self-explanatory. I don't know that there will be anything you have questions on.
Oh, what I'm understanding from you, Whitney, is this is just the placeholder, if you will, that has the list of all the things, and each one of these projects will have its own documents, which will all go through.
Right. Yep, and that constitutes the actual contract.
Okay.
Contract. The development agreement does.
Got it. So we can have more discussion as a council if there's any questions or clarifications needed. Otherwise, we could take a motion to set the public hearing date for, which date is that, the second meeting in
27th of April.
April 27th.
I'll make a motion to set the public hearing on the 27th of April.
I'll second. Doug, aye.
Karen, I.
Can I?
Jerry, aye.
Mike, aye.
Motion carries with 5. Next up is the resolution adopting the supplement to the Peosta Code of Ordinances. This is taking the ordinance changes that were approved throughout last year and maybe an additional 1 or 2 from the county, recommendations from the CIA, right?
Correct. The discussion the council needs to have is regarding chapter 20, the portable storage containers, which you'll notice we did add language in there for if a person is moving into or out of a house, that they're allowed 7 days to have their storage container on their property. And
On their property or on the street?
on their property, not on the street. And that's also gonna involve construction trailers not being able to be stored on the street. They'll have to be on the property that they're working on. And then, chapter 21 with the recreational vehicle travel trailer residents.
Karen, I had this at our last meeting and now I'm not finding it. Which, can you give a page number?
It's page 272.
Thank you. So the question for the council is, do we want to add this portable storage container ordinance and the recreational vehicle or travel trailer ordinance?
Correct.
Any of the council members care to state their opinion on those?
So the RV one is pretty straightforward, right, Karen? It's
Yes, basically you can't live in your
RV.
camper.
The pod and the work trailer, the construction trailer one, so the vision would be you put that in the driveway as they're working on it? Is that the intent?
Driveway or their lot.
I just envision rain. I don't know, that one maybe.
Otherwise, they can leave it on the street for how long?
No, I don't
They
know.
have to move it every day?
Yeah,
It's 48-hour parking.
48 hours.
It is per vehicles on the street.
So the trailer, you could in theory move, the pod you couldn't, right?
Correct. But I'm thinking of a pod, if you have a pod, you're moving, right? So you've got a driveway, just slap it on your driveway and you're moving in and out. I think the construction trailer would be a bigger challenge because you're not gonna be able to leave it on the driveway because the driveway's probably not gonna be there.
Well, that's part of it.
My concern is the pod in the driveway is, once it's full, they still having pickups and stuff trying to back up and load stuff in their trucks. They just can't move the pod. Or if it sat on the street, at least their driveway would still be open.
Right.
Public safety issue, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's okay.
So, when did we discuss this?
Because Val, our former staff
Correct.
member, moved and she asked, and I think it was 48 hours that she needed because. they
Right, but
loaded
we
the
did an
pod.
extension, just if they ask, I think we extended it up to 7 days or 5 days to help her out.
I don't know, that's
What we did is we put like barricades around it, one in the front, one in the back, or cones, just to help out the residents when they want to move. We're pretty open to help them out with that.
It's a kind of valid conversation because we have a lot of people moving in and out and the pods are becoming pretty
More popular.
Popular because it's
And it happened down by your house too, in that area where a guy wanted to put I think a dumpster in his yard or whatever. And he wanted to put it on the street. That was another issue. But I mean, we worked it out,
Right.
So it leaves it kind of open-ended though. So if they come and ask if they wanted, if we could put it on the street, you can give them a deadline saying 2 days, 4 days.
I just don't know if I'm a big fan of a pod being on the street. Because those could be
Yeah, it depends
weeks on end, right?
Well, no, I think that's what we're saying though. You'd limit it. Give them 5 days or 7 days and then that's it. Right?
Right, or we can do an extension if they need an extra day or something like that, work with them. But yeah, we put the rule as 5 days and then they can ask for an extension.
What's the difference if a pod's sitting there and my truck's sitting there for 5 days versus 48 hours?
48 hour parking is for trucks, and vehicle on the street. It's more or less, they just want to get the vehicles, if they're in a bad area, give them a move.
Well, I would say the difference is you could be doing that every day. Pod is a seemingly once in a lifetime. I mean, like I'm removing, this is a once in my life in Peosta.
All year.
But the whole idea is to get them off the street for safety, right? So the streets aren't congested?
Correct, yeah. I mean, the streets.
So there's really no difference as far as congestion, whether it's a pod or a truck.
For the most
But
part.
there is, because your truck could be there 365 days. A pod is not going to be there 365 days. It's going to be there 5 days. In the 3 years that I lived in Peosta, if I have a pod, it's going to be 5 days of 5 years.
Right.
Your truck, conceivably, you could do that every single day for the duration of your.
So you brought up a good point here. Should we be focusing more on the dumpsters as well? Is there a dumpster part of the ordinance?
Well, the dumpsters can't be in the street.
No, and that was the issue. They had to put it in their yard. Because it was gonna possibly tear up the
No,
yard.
just like these things, so.
Right,
Yeah, I
that's,
see it, but you have something that calls it out. Dumpsters, or should we add that in along with the portables?
I mean, we can't park it into the street. That would be a parking violation.
I mean, yes, right now it'd be a parking violation.
Right.
Yeah, but.
I guess I don't see the difference between a dumpster and a pod. When it comes to, because it's only gonna be there for 4 or 5 days too, right? You're not gonna have it there for.
Or longer, depending on the construction or whatever they're gonna do, yeah. Just
Yeah, and that was
depends.
this case, it was like a construction dumpster, like, hey, we're finishing our basement. We'd like to have this here for 2 months while we.
The dumpster they had was I wanna say like a 24 footer. I mean, it was large. One of the large ones. And it was kind of in a bad area where they wanted to put it, so they had to put it in the yard just because the house was right on a corner. And just for traffic reasons. That's why they had to put it in the yard.
As long as we're covered for dumpsters, I guess.
What's that?
Just as long as we're covered for dumpsters and we don't need to have it a part of this, then.
Ultimately, I think, this is like the fourth meeting we've discussed, struggling with this issue. I think I would recommend flexibility on the allowance, and if you wanna be stringent, I would rather see you shorten down the time frame. So if you really don't feel good about pods, I would encourage you to just make it 48 hours then. I just think in such a transient community where you have really a lot of professionals coming and going, even just moving within the community, that I think we'll just get a lot of people violating it without even knowing it. You know, somebody moving in from Chicago, they don't know, they're just gonna have their pod dropped off here by the company, and or city staff's just gonna get a lot of pushback because they're gonna just say, I gotta drop this in here for 18 hours to unload it. And then, you know, we'll just be Iowa nice like we always are, and it's gonna be like, okay, you didn't hear this from me, but get it unloaded really fast and get it off there. So yeah, I do think it's a valid safety concern, but I think that shrinking that window down, I think people will be willing to work within that, rather than, I think a flat no could present some enforcement issue down the road.
And could they come to us for possible extensions? If they, let's say the weather.
Normally they just come to me for extension and I can approve it instead of going to you, you know. Council meetings are every 2 weeks. That's the issue where I can make that judgment call and make it safe.
No, that's what I meant, just somebody in the city. No,
Right. Yeah, they'd come to me for an extension and I can do that. If it's in a safe area where I believe it won't be as bad of a traffic hazard as other areas. Yeah.
And we've talked about, the problem is situationally, like some places it's a terrible spot for it, a huge traffic hazard. Some places it's really a non-issue at all, and it's could be in fact more dangerous for it to be in the driveway, blocking other views. Some people don't have a driveway that can house it, so that's the problem, I think. And that you're alluding to, John, is some places, yeah, it's really tough ideas. So maybe we need, that just needs to be our process, that we don't allow it unless Mike or Dean would probably both say, okay, this location is acceptable, this one just right on the corner of Birds would maybe be it, or.
So upon approval or something like that in it?
Well, I just think the placement could be important. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's all, it's totally different, yes. Well, because we've had lots of other discussions, if you put something in your driveway, how many people can't see when they back out of their driveway,
And it's just
right? When
unfortunate.
you're in that,
Like, Jim, you could have a pot at your house, it would bother nobody.
Yeah, dead end street, there's no
Right.
traffic.
So that really would not be an issue. But if, you know, I know you took a call, John, what's the road? It's right on Birds. Yeah, over there. When that truck or trailer's parked there, if somebody
Ridge,
not
right in the
there,
corner of Birds where, they have a bunch of junk in a trailer.
that'd be a major.
okay, that's, that's real fair, very fair.
I'm hearing, I think, two different elements. One of them is the traffic safety bit about obstructing a roadway.
Yes.
And recognize that some roadways may be more sensitive to that than others. And I'm hearing still some ambiguity around what do we want to include when we talk about non-moving objects, right? Is it a pods? Is it a dumpster? Is it a pile of gravel? Is it, and how is a pods really all that different than an auto trailer parked on the street?
I think pods are just a newer thing. So when they updated their model code, there were probably some communities that had some issues with them and they added this. You don't have to add it. We can continue going as we have been. And to your point, we don't allow people to dump gravel in the street to, you know, they have to have that on their property. The dumpsters, they would have to have on their property.
That's where I have a
Pods, you don't have to put it in if you don't want to.
That's where I have a problem. We're making everybody have all this stuff off the street or in their land, but yet a pod you can put anywhere. It's not consistent.
What do you mean?
Well, that's,
We make, rocks have to go in your driveway or on your land.
Right?
Dumpsters have to go on your land or in your driveway, right? We don't allow anybody to park more than 48 hours.
sure.
Trailer on the street for 48 hours. So it leads me to believe that a pod should be on your,
So how would you feel
Well,
about the 48-hour limit on the pods?
That's what this is written as. It's gotta be on your property, right? Or am I misreading that?
Right, that's what I'm saying is what I think they should, but I think we're getting,
Okay,
So to flip it though, why can somebody have their work trailer and I can't have a pod? Somebody can have their work trailer for 48 hours, but I can't have a pod for 48 hours. That's just the other.
sure, no, that's the other side, look at it, right?
We're not having an issue with it now, right? There's only one instance that we know of and we kind of worked around it.
Yeah, no, I don't know I don't know.
That everybody
Yeah,
else,
one or two incidents.
I think we kind of revisit it if it becomes an issue.
Leave it out,
Yeah.
So take it
that's
out.
fair, that's fair.
Karen, any thoughts on that? It sounds like at least in the room, we're leaning towards take it out, not included in the ordinance book.
I think that's a very good idea to leave a law out for a change.
Well stated. Okay, so any further discussion on the portable storage containers? So Karen, we'll take that one out.
Okay.
How about the RVs, travel trailer being used as a residency, or as a residence?
That's fine.
I'm not gonna argue with you there.
Interpreting this one is really trying to protect neighbors from one or the other, putting a trailer on their lot and living on it perpetually, right? So this is not as much about road use as it is appearance,
Appearance and sanitation.
sanitation.
I think it's fine.
I agree.
So you do want to keep chapter 21 in then? Okay.
Yes.
Karen, any input on the RVs?
No, that's all right. But what if somebody comes to visit for a day or two and they bring their RV with them? Are we,
Up to 10 days.
okay. That sounds good.
So what I think I'm hearing here is we're working our way towards a motion to approve this without chapter 20 and with chapter 21. Did I get those right? Yeah. Anybody want to make a motion to that end?
I'll make a motion approving or adopting the supplement to Peosta without 20 and with 21.
I'll second.
Doug, aye.
Karen, I,
Chad, aye.
Very high.
Mike, aye.
Motion carries with 5. Discussion. All right, next is a resolution appointing commissioners to the Peosta Planning and Zoning Commission. And I think we might have somebody here that's well prepared to speak to that. Am I right, Mr. Ackerman?
Yeah. So I have been in contact with Donnie Bergfeld and Heather Hickey. And both are interested and excited to come on and join and help out. So those would be the 2 names that I would offer up here.
So these are, can you speak, you get a little background on because this is the expiration dates?
So one of the terms expires in 2024. That would be Mike's term for the office that was vacated. So my question for the council is which of those candidates gets put into the vacancy basically that expires on 2024, and then the other term is just a renewal, so that one will expire in 2026. It's a 5-year term. So I didn't want to take the liberty of putting names in.
Okay,
Does it matter, Mike? Have you talked to him about that?
No, I have not talked to him about that. I don't know that it matters.
Right, I would,
so Karen, just to make sure I'm understanding you right, we've got one commissioner post that is expiring on April 1st of this year. And then we've got the vacancy created by
Correct.
Mike when he came to city council. So that's why we need the 2. So we've got 2 names and we've got 2 slots. We just need to choose which name to put with which date.
doing the order that he said. Donnie B and Heather.
Sure. I don't think about, I mean, so-
So Donnie goes on the term that expires in 4/1/24.
Sure.
Okay.
If that works.
That's great.
good work. Good job.
Next
Do we have to prove that or?
Karen, anything to add to the discussion?
Yeah, I do, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I do actually have something to add to that. Have any of us given the previous position the common courtesy of letting her know that we won't be needing her or whatever?
I have not. Have any of the council members?
I have not.
So that would probably be a good thing to do.
I think she's been there 6, 7 years.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. So I'll take the action to do that. Thank you, Karen.
We need a motion.
For the resolution, yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution. Commissioners to Peosta P and Z.
I'll second. Doug, aye.
Karen, no, because of the way it's been done.
John, aye.
Jerry, aye.
Like I.
All right. Motion carries with 4. With the follow-up action being noted. So next up is Enterprise Drive Gravity Sewer Improvement Project. And once again, we've got some experts in the room to address the council on this. So gentlemen, if you would please introduce yourself for the council, and I'd like to hear what you've got.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. My name is Matt Worsfield. I'm with Worsfield Company, based in North Peosta. And we just wanted to address the council. We were able to review plans and specifications for Enterprise Drive. Last meeting, I think, for bid a couple weeks ago. And we were just a little bit surprised to see the plans that Peosta has traditionally done. You know, very progressive community is always, I guess, been very impressed with the way Peosta has grown. It's been done in a very planned fashion, and it's been done right all the way through. We noticed in the plans at this time around that the street is designed to be constructed, not concrete, which has been kind of the standard as of late. It's been the standard that we typically see, especially in industrial areas. So we just wanted to, I guess, raise the question, or if possible, have a discussion, you know, about the reasons for that. You know, we obviously, we believe, of course, we're biased in saying that, but we believe concrete is a premier product for asphalt, especially in an industrial area where you have very high truck traffic. It's an area that's going to affect a lot of businesses when reconstruction happens, which is a lot of times why you see concrete versus asphalt, a 50-year pavement versus a 20-year pavement, you know, in a couple decades. So number one, I guess we're concerned just from the standpoint of knowing the industry, knowing what we believe is the best thing for that area, and that's a firm belief that concrete is the way to go. Concrete is very cost effective right now. The pricing is good. There's lots of competition, there's a lot of contractors in the area that will be bidding on a concrete street versus an asphalt street. You only see one asphalt company that's going to quote the pavement because there just is only one. So it's a premier product with a good price point, good competition. We do believe that is life cycle costs are extremely low compared to asphalt. And I brought Greg Mulder with me. Greg is the executive director of the Iowa Concrete Pavement. He represents the industry statewide on all things concrete, whether it be pavements, whether it be concrete materials. And I'll let him, you know, discuss what he does and who he does it with, and is here to, you know, he's the guy if there's questions. It's an independent source. It's not just us that, you know, do concrete paving. So I'd like a reconsideration on the product that's being used, because I think there are better options. If nothing else, allow us an alternate to also be able to supply a bid and others for a bid for concrete to compare to the asphalt. If we can't just go concrete only. So that's my discussion about the product itself and how I think it's a better suited use. The second reason for using tonight is, I think it's important that everyone should support local. There's nothing saying if this thing goes concrete that we're getting this project. We're gonna have to bid it against, a dozen other contractors or whatever it might be. But when we're a business in town, we pay taxes in town. We pay a water bill per month more. A water bill per month is more than what most people's taxes are all year. Now that we employ people in town, like Chris Huss, who's here tonight. And we're bidding projects. We don't know geographically each year where we're gonna have to work. We all love to work in our backyard. It doesn't always happen. We're going to send people sometimes 2 hours away to work because that's where we live. So we get questions from our employees. Why was this thing done this way? Why couldn't they look at this? So with a good conscience, I wouldn't be representing our company and our employees and doing my job tonight, because those are questions I'm going to get from people that live in this town. And they're questions that I have wanting to do business in this town. And I think the fact that you aren't looking at supporting local items is something that doesn't seem like Peosta. So those are my points that I would like to make as a business owner and taxpayer in town. And if you don't mind, I'd like to give Greg just a couple minutes to I guess, put his 2 cents worth in. And I guess long story short, from my end, I'd like to see this project bid in concrete. I think it's a better use, if not at least like the courtesy of the city allowing us to be able to take a price both ways. So that way you can see the comparison and take into account things like that. I would hope that you would owe it to the local business to at least allow us to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Greg Mulder, City of Huxley, Iowa, actually. It was destined that I was here tonight because I would be in a city council meeting in Huxley if I wasn't here tonight at this city council meeting, because I'm a city councilman in Huxley and our meeting's at 6 o'clock and I started here too. So I'm actually kind of watching the way you guys handle your resolution stuff and seeing all this stuff. And I really like the way you have your minutes and your agendas and that stuff, whatever system you're using. I sent to my city clerk yesterday and said, hey, let's take a look at those. So anyway, you guys are doing good things up here. Yeah, so Matt asked me to come up here and talk, my history, why you should listen to me. I represent the concrete paving industry right now. So not only for everyone in the state of Iowa. I spent 20 years at the Iowa DOT, so I represented when I left there. I built projects, I administered them, I got to design them. I was our contracts engineer for every contract that's done for the state of Iowa. So I signed a lot of contracts for cities and stuff. So I know a lot about, and then when I left there, not only did I have all the construction administration for all the projects in the state of Iowa, all the materials office, so all the materials that get approved and used in the projects in the state. Whether it's a bridge beam or asphalt or concrete, part of my responsibilities there was also special investigations. The pavement design section was under me, and so I've got a lot of history on life cycle costs and products that are being used. So I have a lot of history on what to do. So all that being said is I know both products, I know them, and I'm also come to this as a city council person myself and represent the industry. When we do projects in Huxley, we want to impact those businesses. If we have to impact those businesses, we want to do it. We want to do it once. So we don't want to have this continuous cycle of this stuff, right? We want to build it once. If you have to ascend and sit or do TIF or whatever project, you want to do that once. With the concrete pavement, most concrete pavements are less than 50 years or longer, right? 40 to 50 years is typically your design life. On your asphalt pavements, a lot of them you can design them. You can design them for the loads of 50 years, but you're going to have some degradation in the asphalt itself, which you'll probably make you do a resurfacing in about 20 years. So not only will you now you'll be impacting
in 20 years, because you see that thermal cracking and that roll down in each one of those cracks, and you start feeling that stuff. I think there's some great design equivalents here. You have an 8-inch asphalt with a 16-inch aggregate base. Pretty poor over here. The comparison, according to the SUAS, which is the statewide urban design, right? So that everyone's using the equivalents in there. The equivalent in concrete is 8 inches with 6 inches of rock. So if that's equivalent to the 8 inches plus 16, there's definitely, I think the costs are going to come basically exactly the same for your upfront front-loaded costs. You might have costs 20 years later for your asphalt because you're probably have to do an overlay or something down the line. You want to have that impact to those businesses and additional costs. Run your life cycle costs back to the present value. I think in the long run you'll have a better deal using concrete. Long-term solution there. Cost-wise, I think over the scope of time will be better for you and less impact to your businesses. So I can answer any questions about designs, materials, or anything else. But I just wanted to offer you that those things to think about. I do know that, as Matt mentioned, asphalt typically, and being my contracts engineer hat for the state, when you get more bidders, the price drives them down. So you're gonna have multiple bids in concrete, which we see 7 to 12, depending on where you're at across the state, on concrete bids. Certain geographical regions, you're only gonna get probably one asphalt bid for that stuff at that price. So, and it's the same thing if you were to only get one concrete bid. But what my office does, and one of the other things we do, is we make sure we work with the cities to make sure we're hosting and presenting all your projects so that you get multiple bids, so that it gives you the best value. I think you got good options here, and I think this would be a good alternative to do that.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we had an offer for questions, Q&A. If you have any questions for.
So how long has that current concrete been there?
Mid-90s.
95, they built that building there, I think. So around there.
I'll say 94, 95.
Yeah. It's 25 years.
Do you know what the subbase was on that?
Absolutely
They're
not.
putting an aggregate underneath there and everything, so most of the mid-90s construction was without, that was just on dirt, which doesn't offer you any drainage stuff, so then you have some problems with that. That's why we recognized and changed those designs to include some subbase underneath there, and that's why it was recognized.
So that would add 25 years to that.
Yeah, matter of fact, yeah, it will. Especially, that's not doweled, it didn't look like. So now your joints are doweled, so you're gonna have a little flexibility, unless you're straight on line. So with an 8-inch, you would put an 8-inch dowel pavement in there, most likely, that would be what your engineer would design. So you're getting 50 years out of that. And then we have, I would assume, and if you're a city engineer, we have different 3 aggregate mixes, we have different fly ash reduces the dirt, increases the durability of the pavement, so it doesn't let as much stuff get into it, gives you a better life of this stuff. At first, fly ash was considered, hey, what are they putting this non-cement stuff in there? It's really actually, so I get the opportunity to represent concrete industry not only in Iowa but across the nation, and do some performance engineering studies and lots of research with the National Concrete Pavement Technology Center, which is the name, which I sit on the board of. But that's been some of the research, that we've done and we've looked at. That's the way to build a quality mix. So a CSET mix or a 3 aggregate performance mix would give you a really good pavement out there. And long story short, kind of what summarize your question, a lot of those pavements that you're seeing that were built during that time, the design standards are totally different today. Those pavements were designed for 20 years. They were designed for 20 years. Today, with the materials and the construction techniques today, as Greg mentioned, the dowel, the dowel joints, you have smooth joints at every saw cut. So you don't get that thump bump that, where the pavements, you feel them do this. And if you get thin pavements that are on dirt or mud, the moisture underneath, they pump, and then you feel that. So what you're seeing on that street is something that you wouldn't see on that street 50 years from now if it was not concrete.
And you start looking at even just beyond the surface material, you start getting to the subgrade. I mean, in the mid-90s, you're paving on dirt or poor quality subgrade. Nowadays, you're paving it over modified subbase or even just a cleaner product that allows water to find its way to subgrade along the edge of the road. When you don't have that aspect, you have water sitting in the road and it seeps up to the joints. And a lot of times that's where you start seeing your joint failure. It freezes in the joints in the winter, pops it out. Next year, there's more water, more room for water to join up and pop out. That's where you get a lot of your transfers, joint failures there. So
Our biggest concern though, is like you mentioned, is the impact of the business, right? So we want to have minimal amount to the impact of the business that's surrounding area. And the reason why we're looking at asphalt, and asphalt came to the top, is because of the speed at which it can be removed and laid, you know, and then even resurfacing. Right now we have issues down Cap Drive, where we have to tear up chunks of the cement that's busted up and relay that, and it's weeks at a time when we gotta, route traffic or interrupt businesses. So the whole purpose behind going with asphalt or looking at asphalt specifically is the amount of time it takes to, tear it up and lay it down and get it back to normal. You know what I mean? And then long-term, the maintenance, yeah, we know it's gonna be maintenance, but if you go around town, we do have a lot of overlays, and that's kind of what we're doing. But we do use Horsfield quite a bit for a lot of other construction, so don't take that the wrong way, that, we locals, how we want to stay with keep our business, but we're trying to not impact our businesses in town and get them back to work. Because that is our heart over there. That's our main source of taxable income, and we do not want to impact their business, but we also want to give them a good product, so.
I think one thing to keep in mind is, you talk about the duration that businesses are actually disrupted or just inconvenienced, right? I mean, when we're paving midsummer, I mean, you're not talking about a multiple week, 10-day period where vehicles aren't gonna be able to drive on the road. You're talking about an acute window where we're paving, maturity time, and then we're access is back open. I mean, there will be a definite period where access won't be allowed for concrete paving. That's just for the paving maturity process. But throughout, there's ways to work with businesses, work with the community to allow access throughout the intermediate portions as well. So it's not a 2-week inconvenience.
It was mainly the curing time that we were looking at, right?
Yeah, so I love that he uses maturity, like you should know what it is. You guys know what maturity is?
What, the actual, it's not green anymore?
Right, so maturity is a standard used on a lot of. Chris knows it inside out, but you make a bunch of beans ahead of time and you test them with the brake speed. So based on the temperature, you use a time temperature factor so that you know what the strength. When it's warmer out, it cures faster. We're getting 24 to 30 hours and you can drive on it. You get the strength you need to drive on it. So with some gapping, 24 to 30 hours heat of the summer, you're driving back loaded trucks on it. The DOT allows that. To answer your other question.
You said 20 to 30 hours?
24 to 30 hours. The right time of year. Yeah, the right time of year. Sometimes you're 36 hours. It depends on your temperature.
And how long for asphalt?
You can really drive on asphalt probably within a few hours of putting it down. And you'll have 3 lifts or probably 4 lifts to put in an 8-inch asphalt pavement in there. So you have 4 or 5.
Just like the highways, right? They'll do levels and they'll come back and they'll overlay, yeah. No.
And that's the one difference with concrete. Your paper's gonna pass the business once. So yeah, you're gonna have that 30 hours in cure time. But the asphalt paver, which is thick, they're gonna be making at least 3 passes. So they're gonna have 3 days that they're gonna be down with it. We're still gonna have to maneuver around that paver with flaggers or whatever to be able to get around. Where with paving, concrete paving, it's gonna be 1 day full width, one end to the other.
And the geometry of this road specifically is pretty ideal for that because it's 24-foot wide main line section down the middle. That's gonna be 1 pass of the paver, 1 day's paving ideally, and then maturity time afterwards. So I mean, it's not a very complex.
So it's gonna be shut down for, just say 2 days. 3 days.
Work with the business and do it at the end of the week, going into a weekend and coordinate that. If there's any conversations with any of those businesses, you know, you can pay toward the end of the week and be driving on.
I don't know if you want to circle 2 days and then say that's going to be a guarantee. That's still trivial, but
Right.
as you know, it doesn't always go the way it's planned. So, I mean, what we're trying to say is there's ways of planning with business owners and scheduling times of the week and the product we're offering the right time of year. You're not looking at a huge long duration of non-access for big businesses that are.
It's pretty safe to say if you take on Thursday, it's safe to drive on Monday.
Correct.
And you could have gravel, which means we could go in on Sunday and put gravel temporary drives in as we tie in the driveways and everything so that they would have access on Monday morning.
There's more to it though than just the surface, right? Don't we have infrastructure to put underneath the road too? It's the sewer, water, anything like that?
Nothing really underneath the road, no, just drain down, sub drain.
Which that would be the other reason. The other thing to think about too, with the concrete pavement, you need less, since you don't need much rock underneath it. The more rock, the longer it takes to do it too. So with asphalt, if we're gonna be putting 6 inches of rock versus 16, we're gonna have a third less time when the road's actually tore up, putting the base down with the asphalt guys. So we're gonna pick up time on that end of the concrete versus asphalt. Well, you might lose a day or whatever on the concrete side, you're gonna pick it up on the front end.
Typically, you know, they're rocking in a 6-inch lift or so you can get maximum action or action in that rock. So if you go 16 inches, you take several passes to get across there is what passes.
Which means it's gonna be just like the asphalt, it's gonna involve multiple passes with placing the rock, just like the concrete where. I'm just trying to show you, there's gonna be some savings, time savings for the businesses, because when you're grading that down and placing the rock, that's when, this is an impact on all the way through. You must not kid yourself. It's grading and placing the rock. So that's when it's even more of an inconvenience for them because they're not on pavement anymore. If we can do that in a third less time than the asphalt, yeah, it might take a day longer on the pavement side to put a coordinator. I guess what I'm getting at, the old operation is probably gonna be shorter.
Yeah, we're letting a project next week in my city, and we did the same thing, dealing with the businesses right there. It's the same discussion we had, and we knew we wanted to put down a pavement that's gonna be there. Whenever we put a full depth pavement down in my city, we put down concrete that just because we know that it's gonna be the best value for the city, the taxpayers, and the folks that use it. You might have to deal with, working and communicating with the businesses or staging the project such that they can use certain things at a time, but we want to make sure we're doing that. Jerry made a point earlier too, or someone did. 1997 is when the Iowa DOT went from a 30-year design to a 40-year design for their pavements. In 1989, if anything designed before 1989 was 20 years or less. And a lot of those roads are less than 40 plus years, 50 years, 37.8 years is their average life. And that was of the stuff that was designed in 20 years, you know. So when we talked that road was put down in the mid-90s, the typical design criteria then was like a 20-year pavement. So you probably got all your design life, but right now your design life of your pavements that you're looking at and designing, and I think the engagement engineer that probably designed for 40 to 50-year pavement out there for you. So you're probably going to need that design life.
That's where some of the older projects, like I said, they're not representative of what we did today. And I think about that last stretch of Cap Drive down toward, the very end. I know Cap Drive was done in segments. I think Flynn did this initial stretch. Someone told me that was pushing 40 years ago. We did the last stretch, and I got back from college, which would have been in 97. You know, so that's talking, 24 years there on that last stretch, and that's really well. But just the aspects of using valves with a thicker cross section versus you're going to have 8-inch valve pavement on a drainable base with subdrain versus what you have now, which is probably a 6 or 7 inch pavement with no drain. So you're going to see it. That adds 25 years.
So if we decide to stay with asphalt, are you saying you won't be able to provide it?
Correct. Well, yeah. Where possibly. It's a question of if River City were to bid it as a general contractor, then by rights, they don't have to give
So a question of concern I have for concrete, we have a couple subdivisions throughout town, fairly recent subdivisions. And we're looking at 6 to 10 panels between saw cracks that it's cracked. And rather wide. And this was prior to my time and it was accepted. For what reason? I don't know, because to me, that's not a quality product.
Which area are you referring to?
Kelly Oak and Royal Oaks, 4th edition.
Yeah, I know exactly the two instances.
So more recent subdivisions, I mean, we're talking in 2000s.
And that's, I know exactly what about the cracks, the longitudinal ones you're talking about.
Absolutely.
That winter, there should be a record of this. And it was acknowledged by someone who built, that street was paved in the fall. They built a house in there during the winter time. They plowed one path down the middle of the street, left the snow and ice piled up on the side of the road, didn't clear the street completely. It wasn't the city's fault because the city didn't take it over yet. So when you take a pavement, you don't leave the snow all on or clear it all off. You get thermal, you get temperature difference from the pavement, so you get area that's insulated and area that isn't. And if you don't do that in the areas where that snow sits, it's good enough. There's going to be a thermal crack. And it was acknowledged by the developer and by the person that did the concrete, that worked on the house, who was also a concrete contractor, agreed that that was the reason.
How would that be any different than having cars parked on the side of the road? So your center is exposed to the sun, but the sides aren't.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying, is this pavement, it's fine for sure. Those cars eventually get moved. This sat like this all winter long.
You have full insulation with snow cover over here, and you got bare pavement here. You have the sun come out on a warm day, that pavement melts off.
I probably have written at least 10 letters about that in over the last 5 years of me doing this job, of that exact situation happening. It doesn't just happen here, it happens in Wisconsin and Minnesota too, and all my parts. I mean, it's a known thing. You got a foot of snow insulating it over here, and then you have this plowed area.
Which is why the cities, they'll do the reverse, right, just to build, eventually get it cleared out. I mean, not saying it's gonna happen right away. And especially in the first year, they don't pay the military asphalt. I think it's gonna be more summer temperatures where it was paid late in the year. And I knew, and I was guessing that was what you were referring to, but that is the reason. There was a discussion about that. The city accepted it. I think that happened when it wasn't accepted. So I don't know what between the developer and the city, whatever, but it's, that is what happened there. So it became a temperature cracking issue. Kelly Oaks was a subgrade stabilization issue. I was there when they did the walkthrough. The engineer representing the project, there were some areas that were really soft and really wet. Not good soils underneath, so load a truck out there, and he just paved it. Someone else did the grading work, but I was on site when they did the test with the truck to see what areas needed it. And there's some areas where, quite honestly, the engineer didn't, whether it was an asphalt pavement or a concrete pavement, there should have been more rock.
Dean, did you get an answer to your question? You started that one.
Sorry, I just used to be president of council, sorry.
You're perfectly fine. You need to explain more to them than you do me. So.
Did you get what you were looking for with your question?
Yeah, and I assumed that was going to be the answer. Yes.
Okay. So if I can ask a procedural question, this is out for bid right now. We have the bid opening scheduled for April 8th. Are contractors able to bid with a deviation or bid an alternate?
Yeah, they would have to issue an alternate. The insurance team would have to provide additional engineering to support the plans and specs for a concrete alternate. So that would be something they would do, and then issue that would be made public and available to all in the plan rooms and everywhere it's published. So that has to be done. I mean, that'd be done pretty quickly.
Mayor, if you don't mind, just when it's right, it's an addendum, just like if you decide you want to do another driveway or you missed something, you issue a couple sheets or details or whatever change you do, issue an addendum to the plan. Unfortunately,
sucks and you have to do it, but it's better to do that ahead of time and get the bid or the bond you want issue it and then before bid, so everyone has an opportunity to have time to bid.
And I'm assuming there would be, is there any certain timelines with the businesses that they're looking at? The reason I say it, it's something you consider. I mean, the other option would be to bump back the bid date a couple weeks. That takes a big publishing correct with me and a week's notice on the papers.
I don't think that's an option, just to, over the whole thing, just to bump the bid date back, just because,
I just mean, in case
you know.
Well, I'm sure they could.
They could. I did a 246-page edition.
I guess I'm still stuck on the maintenance end of things. In the long run, it's concrete or blacktop, asphalt. It's gonna need maintenance, you know? And to me, if we have to tear out a chunk of asphalt, they can come in, throw a patch in there quick, traffic's back up and going with the same day. And maybe it's the people who do the concrete work, but it seems like every time you put a patch in a concrete, there's always a bump there. You know, no matter how good you are, you ain't gonna get the same surface. Where asphalt, I think there's a little bit more, they fine tune it better, I guess is what I'm saying. So I just, to be able to have a road down for a patch and let it sit for 2 days where they could come in, rip it out, throw some asphalt in, then traffic can be going again that night or the weekend. They can come back in, finish patching, it's done.
So just to address that specifically, on the state highways, interstates, and everything else, we did a 5-hour cure. So you can rip out a patch and put it back in and drive semis on it in 5 hours.
But that costs more money.
It's just an mix concrete.
Yeah, but
It's just telling somebody, I want this thing open in 5 hours.
but the price of the concrete goes up then.
See, it's gonna be, I mean, it's gonna be
Small.
Yeah, huge amount. It's just the material increases. What it is.
Yeah. The work is exactly the same.
The difference is if you're getting concrete back in. The other thing to think about too, when you talk about patching, you put in a new pavement. You know, really, if you want to look at doing something long term, you know, you put in a concrete pavement like the design today, you're not gonna be doing that for 50 years, you know? So maybe a heel patch in 50 years, but at that time, it's just time for a complete replace. In the meantime, the maintenance you have is, you know, some resealing of joints. Your asphalt, you know, 3 times during that, like that time is gonna need a mill and an overlay, which is much more intensely affecting businesses than, you know, just letting it get to 50-year pavement, and in 50 years, you gotta replace it.
Does that fast cure affect the overall structure and stability of the cement? That 5-hour cure, does that, the integrity of the cement, is that affected then by that?
I mean,
I've always heard that it is, that it does, and that's why they pop, you know, when you drive down the interstates, you get that real hot day and the cement blows up. That's kind of.
You don't do a patch with the intention of having it last for 50 years. So your question is it gonna have the same durability and strength as, I mean, durability, strength wise it will, but durability wise, you don't put patches in with the intention. They're short-term fixes.
so in year 30, you're gonna do a 20-year patch. It won't last 50, but it should last to the end of it, right? So year 30 or year 40, it's some period in the life of it, you're gonna do something. And then, yeah, to Chris's point, we're actually working on using some rapid set cement. It's more durable and less shrinkage and some other things to get patches. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do to get a patch last 50 some years, and I've seen some of them out there, but do most of your MX patches that are gonna give you 5-hour cure and they'll give you 30 years. You can plan, I mean, you can get a good life out of that. And at that time, you're probably 20 or 30 years, 40 years into the life of your pavement, and then you put in a 30-year patch, right? It's gonna outlive the pavement. So will you get it on every one of them? Probably not. You'll probably have a probability of 90% of them lasted, 25, 30 years. But I won't say that 100% of them will last 25, 30 years, but there's a 90% probability they will.
And again, it goes back to this too, is, you know, that we're thinking of the existing street, like, you know, with the way that it's designed and built, and that's the current standards. You know, if you're designing on a 40, 50-year pavement, you know, the odds are you're gonna have to do any patching at that age are slim. You know, because there's factors of safety and design. I mean, obviously, that you're gonna get, if they say it's a 50-year pavement, you're probably getting 60 out of it. At that point, I mean, it's probably time just to put a new street in 60 years, it's even how many decades later. So we're thinking about paved patches when really you build kind of pavement with a long design life and just know that you're not going to, in 50 or 60 years, you're going to put a new street in, which if you get 60 years on the road.
Or somebody changed a driveway or something else, there's other impacts to that. So.
But in all reality, when it comes to sub-base, we spoke sub-base, it's all about the structure underneath it. In all reality, when you're referring to 6 inches versus 16 or 2 foot on asphalt, whatever it may be, in all reality, if the soils underneath that sub-base that you're putting down isn't suitable, you're still basically putting down the same amount of sub-base underneath concrete as you are asphalt.
So
not really no denial on that.
yeah, so Dean, to your point, the 16 inches of sub-base that's designed, or the SUDAS manual, is comparing a CBR value of California carrying ratio, which gives you the structural capacity of the soil underneath. A really weak one is a CBR value of 0. An okay, not so good is a CBR value of 3. One that's a cement treated almost as hard as, you know, concrete is a CBR value of 10, right? So you got these varying ratios. So if the CBR value requires 16 inches under asphalt, the comparable on a CBR value of 3 is 6 inches of concrete for concrete. So if your CBR, which is the same, the dirt underneath the base, right, is weak, and if you need more rock for asphalt, you're gonna need more rock for concrete, right? If you need more for concrete, you need more for asphalt. So the comparison, right? So you can just do a ratio comparison. Weak soil, 16 inches is what your design for.
I did.
Okay, you did. What you designed for asphalt, the comparison in SUDAS with that CBR ratio of that is 6 inches for the concrete. You have a more rigid pavement that spreads the load out better. So that's why it needs less support underneath there. That's why it's more resilient in hurricane and flood areas as well as even river floods and stuff like that. When you get that support spreading the load out a little bit better. You don't need as stable as a sub-base underneath there. But if you do, you're exactly right. You gotta have a good base underneath there. If you need more for the asphalt, but the comparison is 16 to 6. So if you need 20 under the asphalt, you're probably gonna need 8 or so under your concrete.
And flip to that, I think what Dean's saying is you need enough to be able to, obviously the trucks, can handle the trucks. What Greg's saying is with asphalt being flexible pavement, it's a misconception to think that you're gonna need the same amount of rock for both. It's true, 16 inches of rock is also with the truck. But what Greg's saying is that to get the same structural capacity, because asphalt is a flexible pavement, if you need another 6 under the concrete to get the same structural capacity of asphalt, you need 6 more under the asphalt. Even though it can hold the truck, you still need it as part of the overall pavement composition to be able to compare the two designs. So some people think just because you can drive a truck on it, it's good. It's not fair to concrete to say, well, you need a foot here, you need the same amount of rock either way, and concrete's more expensive. Well, concrete's a rigid pavement, it can bridge things, where asphalt's a flexible pavement. So if you need more rock under the concrete, if it's 16 and 6 are the comparables, if concrete needs a foot, you gotta put 6 more into the asphalt to get apples to apples. This is what we're trying to say, right?
All in section 5 of the SUDAS manual and the design comparison.
So at the beginning, you said the reason why the asphalt or the concrete would last longer because the sub base will drain underneath it, correct?
That's definitely gonna help you doing that. And then,
But if you pack that rock in, Then you lose the drainage.
Now, the gradation of the rock, right, so there's different things, there's special backfills, there's usually special backfill around here, gradation 32 probably is what you guys traditionally always use, which is drainable. But on either pavement option, either you do asphalt or you do PCC or concrete, on the asphalt bit that's out right now, you guys are planning to put a subgrade along the road. That's your drainable envelope that does collect that water. All the water that comes on the backside of the curb and water that comes off the road, it gets caught by that subgrade and it drains out to the near specialist. You're gonna have that subgrade drainage on either platform, whether it be asphalt or concrete. So that's not really a pro or con for both. That's just standard practice for construction these days.
Under pavement.
On the pavement. Under pavement. Well, there's a trainability test for it. You wouldn't want to use modified or street fines because of sub-base or special backfill that's going to allow that to happen. And your engineer will design that accordingly. So.
I'm still stuck on the downtime when you're patching. I mean, it's gonna happen someday.
Someday you'll have to do a patch. Someday.
Karen, I trust you're hearing this well. Do you have any input for the discussion?
I'm having trouble hearing the whole conversation. I had to turn up the volume and now I have an echo. But, I kind of go with the idea that I might be repeating what's already been said, but Enterprise Drive to me is, even when this project is done, it's an unfinished street. And if we have to change direction or work on it, it's going to be easier to take up the asphalt, because I don't consider Enterprise Drive to be totally finished yet. And on the other hand,
you don't consider Enterprise Drive to be what?
Finished. We're going to have to go somewhere else with Enterprise Drive. It's going to have to get down farther into the development park or get over to Cap Drive at some point in time. And if we have to change it, I think that asphalt would be easier to change if we add to it or change. And the other thing is, I'm sure that Dean's listening to all parts of the conversation, and I think I got to rely on the Public Works Director to figure out what's best. So that's all I got to say.
That asphalt is on the west end of that road there. The pavement, the concrete, because I think going into that other building to the west end is asphalt.
Yep.
Right? And that, the condition of that, it looks like it's had some patches on that as you can go to Gap Drive.
Yep.
I don't know if that's public street or not, but it looked like there's been some asphalt
It's actually private.
Yeah, it's private stuff over there, but
Yeah.
the condition of that, was that put down in the mid-90s, like Enterprise Drive?
Swiss Common.
Yeah, that would have put down in, probably 97, 8.
Probably would have added on to the end of the concrete, I'm assuming, so it probably would have came after the concrete.
Could have been, 97, 98 when that building was established.
And just looking at the condition of both of them out there earlier this afternoon. There's a lot of patches that are needed, but I don't know what the design of that one is either, so.
Me either.
You guys probably know that better.
I think we did a patch through there when we had the route traffic, didn't we? We fixed it for Swiss Colony, so that's probably why I see a bunch of patches.
Yeah, the extension to the east would have been additional.
We took care of that for them, because they're gonna see added traffic through their lots, so.
So this has been really helpful. I appreciate you guys coming and sharing your expertise, making sure the council knows your position on this. This is really good. It's in the agenda as a discussion item, so there is no action taken tonight on it. And with that, I think we can move on to the next agenda item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I appreciate it with Zoom coming.
All right, next up is a string of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 8 separate resolutions that we will be taking action on, or at least we're being asked to take action on. All resolutions approving the temporary and permanent sanitary sewer easements for 8 different parcels.
So these are for the installation of the water and sewer to the properties that were just annexed. So we have these, the residents have all seen them. We do have a few of them signed. We just decided to get the council approval now so we can get them recorded as soon as the residents have a chance to sign them. There has been some communication with MSA. Jake Deaver, the engineer, is handling most of the technical questions. So there's been a few questions and those have been answered satisfactorily. So we're in good shape.
Have any of the property owners expressed that they don't want to do this, at least the way we're proposing or asking?
No, we have not gotten that feedback. We had there were some questions on, what the landscaping, the trees that are in the easement, what will happen to those? Those were the type of questions we're getting.
Okay. And even if there was a concern that wasn't voiced to date or said here tonight, they still have that opportunity prior to putting.
Correct, that's correct, right? It can't be recorded obviously until it's fully executed.
Okay. So I'm going to suggest to the council, understanding these are all the same, we should be able to click through these pretty quick unless there's something unique to one. I'll ask you to speak up. Otherwise, with that understanding, I will tee up and I'll do it by the letter designation. Therefore, E is our first one.
I'll make a motion. Second. Doug, aye.
Karen, I.
John, I.
Jerry, aye.
Mike, aye.
Motion carries with 5. We will then go to F, which is also Bird's property.
Make a motion for 4F.
I'll second.
Doug, aye.
Karen, I.
John, I.
Jerry, aye.
Mike, aye.
Motion carries with 5. We will go to G, which is CCI 5.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Doug, aye.
Karen, I.
John, I.
Jerry, aye.
Mike, aye.
Motion carries with 5. The next lot, this is for H, is B&C LLC.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Doug, aye.
Karen, I.
John, I.
Jerry, aye.
Mike, aye.
Motion carries with 5. Next one up is for I, Waterman.
Make the motion. I'll second. Doug, aye.
Karen, I.
John, I.
Jerry, aye.
Mike, aye.
And we get to 4J, which is the Oatkin property.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Doug, aye.
Karen, I.
John, I.
Jerry, aye.
Mike, aye.
And then we get to 4K, the Stelzer property.
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Doug, aye.
Karen, I.
John, I.
Jerry, aye.
Mike, aye.
And 8th of 8 is for the Craftful property.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Doug, aye.
Karen, I.
John, I.
Jerry, aye.
Mike, aye.
So for all 8, the motions carry with 5. Karen, I realized we tested your speed writing skills there.
I can't look up and write. Voice recognition would be better.
Oh.
I did.
Yeah, good. All right.
Of course she did. She's good.
So then, the last agenda item under administration is a proclamation regarding Junior Achievement Day. So I will simply read this proclamation for the council. Whereas the city of Peosta will observe Junior Achievement Day on April 1st, 2021, as an opportunity to recognize and celebrate junior achievement of the Heartland for empowering our young people to own their economic success. Whereas Junior Achievement of the Heartland's educational contribution equips our young people to become the next generation of productive employees and self-sufficient citizens to ensure the economic prosperity of Peosta. Where it is fitting for parents, educators, businesses, and other members of the community to join the effort to ensure the future success and economic health of our young people and the communities in which they live. Now, therefore, I, Jim Merton, Mayor of Peosta, do hereby proclaim official recognition of April 1st, 2021 as Junior Achievement Day in the city of Peosta. So that doesn't actually take a motion, that's just a procedure there. And I'm very happy to continue the tradition of keeping and supporting junior achievement.
So is there things we do on that day then in support of that? Or
No,
more of a recognition of?
it's a recognition of, so I'll scan the signed proclamation and email it to our contact of Junior Achievement in Heartland, and then we'll post it on our board.
Cool. Good stuff.
All right, then we're down to other business where we have our closing opportunity for citizen comment. The citizens in the room have vacated, so we'll look online. Is there anybody that would like to address the council before we close?
There was a comment. I'm not sure. This is our first Zoom comment, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That is it.
Seems like we ought to.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's.
When a person's commission expires, is the person not to be considered for the next term? So that is a good question. And I think in many cases there is. Oftentimes there are circumstances, I would say, that there may be other circumstances that aren't necessarily suitable for public discussion when they become personal. So in the interest of privacy, I would suggest there may be some circumstances that that person ought to have an opportunity to have that conversation privately. What's the other comment? There's a glare.
So then should any council position also not be future consideration? Well, council positions are publicly elected, those aren't appointed. Consistent with other areas. You know, I mean, I think our processes are consistent so long as I've been here. I'm a little confused, but.
Yeah, I understand that's coming from Gary. Gary, would you like to speak to that? I'm not sure that second comment is clear to us. Gary, if you're willing to address the council, you'll have to unmute yourself. No microphone. All right. Is this something then that I could offer to have a follow-up conversation with you after the council? Are commission seats nominated or appointed? My understanding is that commission seats are appointed
That is correct.
at the discretion of the mayor.
Correct. There's no nomination process for any city council boards or commissions.
So I'll assume this certainly was to a follow-up conversation. I'd be willing to give you a call. This is Gary Burns, correct? Or maybe I could turn this around the other way and just ask this Gary to call my phone after this evening. I'd be happy to take the phone call and have the conversation with you. So assuming that will suffice, are there any other comments from the public?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
One second.
Doug, aye.
Here and I.
John, aye.
Here,
My guy.
Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.